They looked down on their growing village. Some were improving their homes, and new villagers were moving in as their reputation grew. This included Thor and Jonah the blacksmith, along with his apprentice Brock. They also had many just passing through to meet Xenos the philosopher, and more of them were choosing to stay. They were skilled artisans, and trade with neighboring clans was increasing. The longhouse was finished, and warriors from all over the exiled lands came to see its grandeur. It was a place of welcome and rest. A place for Xenos was also finished, along with a place for the villagers to worship their god, Ymir. As they would often do, the Shieldmaidens liked to walk through the village in the early morning hours to greet the villagers. As they approached the blacksmith, Jonah shouted out with pride, "Your weapons will be finished tomorrow, and I think you'll find them the best in the land." "That is great news, Jonah, and I have no doubt about the craftsmanship. We shall be by tomorrow then." They proceeded through the village as it came to life and headed to greet Xenos. But the best part of this day was that Thor had finished their armor, and they couldn't wait to see it. When they reached Xenos, they could see the villagers were already conversing with him and listening to his philosophies of the day. They had come to love Xenos and tolerated his strange views because his very presence offered them a great sense of security. Astrid and Elsa decided to come back later so as not to disturb his sermon. Besides, they were eager to see their armor. "Oh, Thor," they both exclaimed. "It's exactly as we described." They marveled at the attention to detail and its shiny brilliance. Thor absolutely glowed with pride at their response to his skill. "We should see how it fits first, but I have something else to show you." "I have taken the liberty of making armor for Dakura and I." They looked at him in puzzlement. Dakura would surely need this kind of armor, but Thor was only a blacksmith. "And does this armor take you to the far north as well?" Elsa asked. Thor smiled. "The next time you two go after Star Metal, we are going with you, just to make sure you don't come home with any more frost giants, or Lord knows what else." They all broke into laughter, but knew it was probably a good idea. The next day, some villagers asked to speak with their jarls. They were quite excited and anxious at the same time. "Jarls," they began, "we are quite concerned about Xenos. He stands in his home with his back to us and will not hear us. We beg and plead, but he does not answer. He only shifts back and forth, muttering to himself with grunts and sighs. We are so worried about him, Jarls. Can you speak with him? He may listen to you." Shocked at this news, Astrid asked, "You say he has his back to you?" "Yes, Jarl, and will not even acknowledge we are there." Astrid looked at Elsa, both with deep concern. and they both were fearing the same thing. Was Xenos tired of his philosophizing and returning to his wild nature? Surely not. But they must find out quickly. "Fear not," Astrid replied. "We will go and talk to him. Perhaps he just does not feel well." Thor and Dakur insisted on going with them, and they assured the villagers that they would get to the bottom of this right away. In the meantime, they instructed them to keep away and give Xenos his solitude until they could speak with him. When they reached Xenos, he was indeed standing with his back to the outside world. They could tell that he was quite upset and not himself. Elsa's heart went out to Xenos. She quickly realized her friend was in distress. "Let me speak to him alone, Astrid," she said. "Well, he trusts you the most and is very fond of you, Elsa, so I think it's best, but do be careful," Astrid replied. Elsa slowly approached Xenos. "Xenos?" He did not answer. "Xenos, are you all right?" "What is wrong?" "It's I, Elsa." She could hear him mutter, "You cannot dream within a dream. It is not real." But more shocking, she could see bruises on his arms and legs. Upon hearing her voice, Xenos felt relieved. His little dream was here. He still felt they could not face her, but began, "I am glad to see you, little dream. I have had what you call a nightmare, a very bad dream, but you cannot dream within a dream." Elsa was quite fearful now. Something bad had happened to him. "Can you tell me about this nightmare, Xenos?" she said softly. She could hear him take a deep breath. He fell silent. She needed him to tell her about what happened, so she said to him, "Shall we discuss, Xenos?" knowing he could not resist a chance to philosophize. He met Elsa at the platform they had built so the villagers could speak to him face to face. "What happened, Xenos?" "I went hunting for food last night, and out of the darkness my kin came after me with clubs, shouting, 'You are a disgrace to the children of Ymir,' and began beating me. I am not violent, little dream. I am philosopher. I could not fight back. I ran into the darkness. I got lost until daylight." This was worse than anything she could have imagined. What happened to him was challenging all his beliefs. "This is truly a very bad dream, Xenos. But you are right. You cannot dream within a dream." "Then it is only figment, a thought," Xenos replied. Treading lightly, Elsa replied to him, "If it is only figment or thought, Xenos, why do you have bruises on your arms and legs that are real? I can see them." Xenos once again fell silent. Elsa knew there was no better time to bring him to reality than now, but she had to offer him a solution. "May I make a proposal, Xenos?" He stared at her and nodded with a grunt. "I propose that what happened was not a dream, but real. There must be a camp of your kin close by, and they are like your kin that cast you out. They are creatures of instinct and only live in anger, and that is all they value." "Continue, little dream," he replied. "I propose that they cannot understand how Ymir has blessed you with your little dreams, and they fear you, and at the same time envious of you." "Then I must leave, so they will not harm my little dreams," Xenos replied, almost in a panic. Elsa quickly offered her solution. "No, Xenos, you are happy here, and your little dreams are Aesir. And as history shows, these frost giants fear the strength and skill of the Aesir. Fear not for us, Xenos. We will conquer this camp, and all will know that you are protected by your little dreams. And Ymir, just as you protect us. Just tell us where they attacked you, and we will do the rest." Xenos again fell silent, trying to digest what Elsa was proposing. If this is real and not a dream, then the Exile lands were not a figment, but real. Then these were outcast kin as well. But as Elsa proposed, they did not appreciate his abstractions and wished to destroy him. Did Ymir smile down on him? He brought these little dreams to him. They did not mind his philosophizing. They actually sought him out to speak his philosophies. He could see it now. He was under Ymir's blessing, and this would make his kin very envious and angry. Elsa could see in his face that he was trying to process all she said. She held her breath, waiting for his reply. Finally, he spoke. "I feel my bruises, so therefore they are real. My nightmare was real. The Exile lands are real, and my kin are outcast like you and me, but for very bad reasons. Ymir has indeed blessed me with my little dreams, and I cannot go against Ymir's wishes. If my little dreams wish to conquer this camp, I will tell you where it is." And with a huge sigh of relief, Elsa listened to his instructions on where the camp was. "Fear not, Xenos. That camp or any other camp will not harm you again. You have your little dreams promise," Elsa assured him. Elsa could see Xenos relax and felt his relief. Elsa was sure he would ponder this more, which could lead to many more philosophy sessions. She hurried back to Astrid, Thor, and Dakur, explaining what had happened. "This is not good news, Elsa. And poor Xenos. That could have gone either way, Elsa. Good job," Astrid praised. Thor and Dakur both agreed that they should leave right away to find this camp. Astrid was actually grateful to have Dakur along, but knew Thor was no swordsman, and questioned his ability, as these frost giants were not going to be easy. Elsa was feeling the same thing, but did not wish to embarrass him in front of the others by suggesting he not go. All she could do is pray he could handle himself. They stopped outside the blacksmith shop to pick up their new weapons, and they could not be more pleased. Astrid had a fine pair of axes, and Elsa a powerful bow and spear. She was concerned, though, about Thor and Dakar's weapons, but quickly realized she had no reason. They were both brandishing very fine and menacing swords. She quickly assumed Dakar must have given Thor his sword to use. "I think we're ready," Astrid announced, and off they went in the direction Xenos told them to go. It did not seem far when the passage came into view. After reaching the crest, she bared left and continued on. It was much closer than she realized, and wondered how they had not found it before now. "There looks to be only 4 of them," Dakur said softly. "I think we should approach them from below." They all nodded in agreement. Astrid was grateful for Dakur's input, as she had never fought frost giants, and was sure this would be a battle she would remember. "We should lure them out behind those buildings," Astrid said, so as not to alert the other 2. She drew her axes and advanced. As they got closer, they could smell the burning bonfire and hear their grunts and laughter. "He sees us," Astrid shouted. "Be ready." She stood there, lowering her axes, taunting him. "This will be for Xenos," she cried. She waited until he reached her and struck him squarely in the knees. The others charged in, and within minutes he was down. The second one charged in, but didn't even get the chance to finish his axe swing before he went down. The Kurd roared with laughter. They go down like a sack of potatoes. "Well, the captain is still yet to be dealt with, Dakur. Let's make him pay," Astrid said. There he was, not yet seeing them, but when he did, he raised his axe in defiance. "This day you shall pay for beating Xenos, protected one of Ymir, and the Aesir." This made him furious, and he charged at her. Again she struck the first blow, but the others finished. "Just one more," Astrid said, as he came rushing after her. His axe swing laid them all out, but they quickly regained their footing and took him out. "Well done," Astrid praised. "Much easier than I thought." "Well, I can see why they fear the Aesir," laughed Thor, as they headed home to give Xenos the good news. Elsa spoke to Xenos with the others standing with her. "It is done, Xenos. That camp and any others like it will never harm you again." "Are you hurt, little dreams?" Xenos questioned, wondering how such small creatures could dominate giants. "No, not at all, Xenos. We were guided and protected by Ymir." "This is good," Xenos replied. "I think I like this new dream." They all had a hearty laugh and said, "We do too, Xenos." After seeing Xenos, Elsa asked Thor if he would meet her at the top of the plateau. She would like to speak to him. Thor was positive he knew what this was going to be about. "Do you have something to tell me, Thor? Your skill with that sword today was as good as any of us, surely not the skill of an armorer." He took a deep breath. "I knew this would not escape you, Elsa. You are too clever for that." "I am deeply sorry for not telling you sooner, Elsa, but I know you will not take kindly at all to my previous profession. You see, Elsa, the reason I'm here in these exile lands is because I was a sellsword. I accepted a job from the wrong person and landed here for it. My family's from a long line of armorers renowned for their work far and wide. I too learned the trade, but became bored with it, so I took up my sword seeking adventure and fame. I disgraced my family, and I now regret doing that to them. After being sent here, I took up the armorer profession and vowed never to pick up a sword again. Strangely enough, I do not regret being sent here. Meeting you and Astrid has given me something I was seeking all along. I have purpose and a skill that no one else has. I can make armor that will take anyone to the far north. But most importantly, I have come to know you, Elsa. I was sure I would never meet a woman like you. Your courage, strength, and ability to overcome all odds is inspiring, something to be cherished. I always want to be with you, Elsa, and I hope you can forgive the man I was and only look upon the man you see before you." They both turned to look upon the village and the home that they had created. This man had come to mean more to her than any other man she had ever known. Somehow the fact that he could wield a sword pleased her. She thought long and hard and then replied, "You know, Thor, Astrid's a very clever woman. She made my living quarters at the longhouse large enough for two." A smile crossed his lips. She forgave him, and he reached for her hand. Elsa looked at him as he replied, "Yes, Astrid is a very clever woman." Time was getting short, and Alazar knew he needed to make his move soon. His men were getting restless and wanted their money. They were being paid well now, but they wanted their windfall for the sale of the Shieldmaidens. After today's outcome, he was sure he had cemented his trust with them, and they would never expect his plan. He would send them gifts from the Far East and invite them to dine with him. Thor was making a trip to Seppermeru soon to bring back some supplies, and would be gone for several days. He would offer the Shieldmaidens drinks laced with a sedative so all would be quiet and no one would be the wiser. Transport was in place, and the guards were instructed on what to do. Yes, this was the perfect plan. Astrid was surprised, but pleased that Dakar had invited them to dine with him, and as she approached his tent, she could see him standing there. She slowly walked in with Elsa close behind. She could hear him take a sharp breath as she entered, pleased that he approved. She did not know why, but she felt the need to take extra time with her appearance tonight. Just the sight of her took his breath away. Gods, she was beautiful, and his gift to her fit perfectly. He could not take his eyes off her. He was almost at a loss for words. "Please, sit down," he said, gesturing towards the pillows. Astrid looked around the tent. It was warm, and the food laid out was exotic. It looked delicious. The room was filled with treasures from faraway places, and the scent of incense lingered in the air. Dakar certainly went through a lot of trouble. "This is quite lovely, Dakar. Thank you," Astrid said, with a look and smile that took him by surprise. "I see you are pleased with your gifts," he said as he looked at Elsa. "Yes, they are lovely, Dakar," Elsa replied, smiling. "You are most generous." His gaze went slowly back to Astrid. He could feel her watching him and wanted to know what she was thinking. And at the same time, he didn't want to know. "I think you will find the food to your liking, and the wine is of my special stock," he said. "Please, try it." Astrid reached for her glass, and she raised it to her lips. Something in Dakar snapped. "Stop," he shouted in a firm voice, and grabbed her hand. "Don't drink that." Astrid pulled her hand away in surprise, dropping the glass. They all quickly rose to their feet as Dakar was shouting at his guards to leave them. "But Alazar," they began, "we are only doing as you asked." "Get out," Dakar bellowed. Astrid and Elsa could certainly see the men feared him as they left the tent. Shaken, they backed towards the door. "What is the meaning of this, Dakar?" Astrid demanded. "What was in that drink? And why did they call you Alazar?" Alazar was not quite sure what was happening himself, or did he? The thought of this woman harmed in any way became unthinkable. All he could say to her was, "Yes, I am Alazar, but Alazar has died this night by his own hand." They both looked at him in puzzlement. He continued, Alazar is the man who paid a handsome price for you from your clan, a clan that advertised you as two hard-headed women who created trouble between clans by gossip and untruths. You encouraged them to fight each other for personal gain, and they wanted you gone. They touted you as beautiful and skilled with weapons, assuring you would command a high price. They were not wrong about your beauty and skill, and Alazar fell for it. Astrid and Elsa could not believe what they were hearing. Dakur was the man who brought them here, the man who had all the answers. Go on, Astrid said with a steely gaze. Our caravan bringing you into the Exile lands was ambushed, and we lost you, and have been looking to recapture you ever since. Tonight was going to be that night. Your wine had a sedative in it. He waited for a response, but they both just stared at him in shock. So he went on. I, Dakur, the man who has spent many months with you, knows the truth. Your clan was a clan of weak men, men who were threatened by your skill and strength. They were eaten by their own envy, and I find them despicable, a very low class of human beings. I, Dakur, knows that you and Elsa are the strongest, fearless, and most courageous women I have ever known. You have no equals, and I could not bring myself to see any harm come to you, and I never will. Astrid just stared at Dakur, trying to understand the man he was as Alazar. All the memories of that day came flooding back to her, and she hated this man. She wanted to cut him into a million pieces, but something stopped her. Her feelings were confusing her. She was well aware that she was vulnerable. No armor, no weapons, and a very confused heart. He looked deeply into her eyes. My heart and soul belong to you, Astrid. You are my very life, the woman I have come to know. I have never desired a woman as I desire you, and you are priceless to me. I hope you find it in your heart to forgive me, but if you do not, do as you will, for I deserve anything you decide to mete out. Elsa looked at them both in shock and awe. This revelation about Dakur was hard to digest, but one thing she knew for certain is that these two belonged together. She could see it coming for some time. Dakur was the first man she'd ever met that was strong enough, clever enough, and courageous enough to be with her. She needed a man that was her equal, and he was all of that and more. He could have broken them both, but his feelings for her prevented it. She watched Astrid closely, hoping she would make the right decision for herself. Astrid stood tall and straight, locking eyes with Dakur with intense emotion. She slowly said to him, It would seem that I have been paying a very large sum to Alazar, for many months I might add, for my own capture. Seeing that he's now dead, I think that Dakur should pay the debt in its entirety, to the coin. Dakur did not miss her meaning. She acknowledged that Alazar was dead, and she forgave Dakur. The punishment was joy to his ears. I shall gladly pay that debt in full, and much more, he replied, giving her a look that she could not miss. Astrid lowered her gaze, and when she looked up at him, she smiled and said, See that you do. Astrid looked at Elsa, who had a wide grin on her face, and gestured for them to leave. As Elsa passed Dakur, she flashed him a smile, letting him know that she too forgave him, and all was well. Dakur had to laugh at himself. He'd been caught in his own trap. As he watched her leave, his heart was thankful for this woman. She had no concept of how truly beautiful she was, inside and out, and he bowed to her. He would spend the rest of his days defending her and protecting her, giving her anything her heart desired. He had riches beyond compare, but nothing that compared to her. In her and her clan, he had found meaning, a home, something to belong to, and he would be forever grateful.